Cool. So, thanks. That's too much. We're finished. I'm Heikki. This is Timo. What's your name? Cool. Well, this is not techno. This is going to get cheesy, so beware. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
called survival mode. Always when you deal with computers, that's the case. So, as you might know or might not know, we come from Finland, and we're a small manufacturer currently. We're making these in my apartment's dining table, every one of them. So, well, we are here to talk about the Demon Core Oscillator, 16 voices, and the expander which is sold with it. So, where would we begin? Could you tell us about the history?
Sure. So, okay. If it turns out, after seeing this show or whatever, that you like our module, the one thing you can thank for that is the decreasing funding in science. Because what actually happened is that I've always been into synths, and then I'm a theoretical physicist, and it happened at some point that I was realizing I'm not going to get my next postdoc. So having, as a hobby, built some electronic stuff, the idea came that, okay, let's see if we could, sell a few of these. And to get a long story short, from a working prototype to actually selling these modules 2 years later, we had something that's in a nice Eurorack format. And this is kind of one part of what I had in a polysynth voice I made as a hobby that we picked out and built into a Eurorack module. And the basic idea is that it's a DCO in the same sense as the Juno synths, and but with some little bit of trickery so that we can actually fit 16 voices into this very small module. And what else? What's interesting?
Yeah, well, nothing about us, but about the machine. So, what the machine is and what's it's not. So basically, it should be a sound generator. And well, everything you heard, and I guess everything you will hear during this workshop, everything has the DCO as the sound source, even the drums. So we're trying to use as little of external devices. That's the dogma of this workshop. But yeah, it is a sound generator, and we are not trying to take a stance on what are you using to control it with. So basically, first we had the Digitakt. It's Swedish.
Right.
The machine is Swedish. So it's Digitakt. It was controlling my case here, and it was doing the kind of arpeggio thing where any note would use the release control to feed into another note. And then Timo was doing some keyboard playing with the module, and they're both in the gated modes, so you can use it as a drone machine by itself, not controlling it with anything but itself, or you could use MIDI via the TRS, both polarities. There's no adapters where we coming from, so both. Or yeah, you need to use an adapter.
Yes, but either one will work.
But either one will work. Yes. So it has also a MIDI through if you need it. And then you have 4 CV inputs you could use. I will do a short patch with the ornaments and crime with those CV inputs, and not to plug our Monday released firmware 1.2. We are also having gating on both the MIDI input and also the 4 CV inputs, so they will both act as a polyphonic gate device with the expander. And also, as I said, you could use it as a drone machine, whatever, chord memory, whatever you like. And you don't have to play that cheesy synthwave polyphonic thing with it. You could also use it as like a multiple octave stacking device with a huge organ-like qualities. What should we begin with?
Good question. I really think you should take this mic. You're talking more than me.
No, I'm loud.
Yeah, but not on the recording.
So, we'd like to be interactive with this. So, are there any questions, or do you want to make any comments about the device? Anything's welcome. Come on. It's not Finland. Okay.
Yeah.
What options do you have in terms of controlling the envelope, or do you do that externally with
Yeah. So that's basically first of all you can trigger the envelope on MIDI. So probably have. Okay, mine is shut off from somewhere.
It shouldn't be.
Let me see. Ah, the filter stuff.
It's not even that. Yeah.
It is that.
Great.
Okay, so first of all, I have it via MIDI. You can just control it there. So the MIDI notes work as a gate, and then so that's basically the primary. That way you get the full flexibility. That's also it's a full ADSR. So with the shift button you get sustain and decay here. So we can also do. And then the other option with the new firmware that it was just released on Monday, Heikki will demonstrate it later because it takes a little bit of patching, is that the CV inputs on the expander, now they have this kind of feature that while you don't have the full gate itself, you can put it into a mode where it detects when there's a quick change in pitch, so in the control voltage, and that triggers a note. And then there's a preset length of the preset gate length that you can control. Then we'll show later how, and then it plays a note of that length using the envelope. So, and that works independently for all four CV inputs. So that way you get 4-voice polyphony with the gate. Obviously, there's some limitations there because it detects it from the pitch changes, which means you can't play the same note twice because the pitch wouldn't change and stuff like that. But you can use it with a sequencer to make some nice stuff.
So basically, it's a full ADSR envelope. With if you want to use it via this FM inputs, it's like a hold kind of thing, or the sustain length.
Yeah.
Thing.
The gate length.
Yeah,
basically.
gate length. So that's the way to control the envelopes. Should we take a quick detour at this time to talk about the sync thing?
Okay, that's one.
Because one thing that you can do this, or you can control this like volume / filter kind of envelope of the thing, because well, you have 16 voices. Too loud. Let's take the reverb off and anything that. Yes, this is the full 16 voices. It has a unison stack on the same note, everything. So well, the simple stuff here is this has a static detune control and then a drift control, the core stability. So we have a trigger input here. This is a big red button. It don't.
It works like that.
Yeah. Let's use this. Just a pulse to send there. This doesn't use currently any envelopes here. So the spread control is kind of a decay. No, it's only on the stream mode, so everything is flowing. Like it isn't gated in any time. But every time this pulse hits the module, it syncs up the phases of the voices, which are detuned after that. So there's not so much effect when everything is in strict tuning. Bear in mind, this is an analog device, but digitally we can know where the tuning is at. So this is the strict tuning.
Phase, actually.
Phase, yes, and also the tuning of
Yes,
the voice.
absolutely.
Yes, and when you increase the spread, you can have like this flanging effect, all without an envelope. And this is without a filter. The filter is not doing anything here. Yeah, it's a sync trick input, so it's a analog input for where all waves are synced in phase whenever the trigger hits.
So basically, technically, +5 volts on rising edge. You get a sync.
And this is very useful for all kinds of bass stuff. And whenever you introduce some drift here, the effect, well, it weakens.
Kind of smooths out.
Yeah, so you can use this, by the way, doesn't require the expander, this trick here. And also, when you got yourself a nice enveloping effect here, you can use, if you have the expander, you can use the sync time. So, well, we promised you time travel, so here it is. So we can move the sync time with this knob to be before or after the trigger hits. So which way is it?
They sync up after the trigger if you turn it this way. Can you actually slow this? You kind of hear it hitting the maximum a bit after. Oh, that's why. It's even better when you don't have several octaves. So now you can hear them exactly syncing up at the pulse, and then if I turn this way, they will sync up a little after the pulse.
That's the spot.
There, you just hit the sync there, and again, if you make them hit at the trigger, you get this kind of very sharp sound. And then we can also make it so that it was in sync a bit before the trigger. So that's the time travel to the past part. So there, that's basically the sync trigger thing. Should we quickly show that it works also polyphonically?
Yep.
Okay, so we're probably gonna have to use this.
Yeah, let's jump on that thing because
this is connected
to the
from the keyboard. Yeah, okay. So okay, so let's turn off. Oh, by the way, one of the features of the new firmware, since I have it here, portamento. Let's turn it off. Turn off 2.0 this. And if you use the trigger from the, so this was with the sync trick input. Now we're using the MIDI to trigger the sync. So let's go back to the same state as we were here. So no core stability, or that's at 0, so maximum stability actually, and then some detune. What does it sound like yours is triggering, or what's happening?
it shouldn't be.
Is it this?
Yep.
What's happening?
Okay.
Demo effect, never happened before. So now you can hear it kind of doing the same thing again. Let's go to a lower octave, so there.
Play a chord.
Yeah. And so the same, this works the better the more voices you have. So obviously if you're just singing one oscillator, that's just the usual sync. But it still works nicely with 4. So we can do, now we might actually want to go back up.
And this is without any envelope here.
And the other way around, you get kind of like softer pluck. And then again, if you kind of want to have just the attack but not the flanging thing, you can increase the core stability a little. So that still gives you the pluck, but it breaks out the phase like relationship sooner and sounds more like a more like free phasing.
90s, anyone?
Sorry, that's on that's on me.
So yeah, that's the sync thing, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you get the idea. But the function of it, that okay, you can sync the waves in it together at some point of time. Well, that doesn't tell us anything yet. But usually when you need something sharper, like not having the whole content through a filter of any like picture of full polysynth fed into a filter and then modulating it with the envelope. So now we're getting without a decay control or sharp decay. What's the like Roland envelopes? What's the word? They're not stabby, but snappy.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Exactly, thanks.
So you don't have to rely on a snappy envelope, but you can use the DCO's like internal functioning, how the waves interact with each other. You can add more volume into the attack than using with a gate and then reducing the volume, because well, it isn't as loud as like a standard VCO. It's because it needs the headroom for that sync trick, because every wave, every 16 waves synced up adds up with a bit of volume.
Basically 16 times the amplitude, so
yeah,
we need to have space for that.
So you can use it for a sharper attack, and it works well with like bass sounds or anything that needs to be snappy. Yes. Should we try to explain the weird overtones thing?
We can try that, yeah. So the weird stuff first, and then the basic things afterwards, right?
Yeah, basic.
Okay, so one thing actually we were trying to remember to do all the time, we haven't quite, but I'm going to show you one important thing, and this is basic, is that it's a bit of a complex device in the sense that there's a lot of hidden functions behind the function. Push down the function and the various potentiometers, you get various alternate functions. There's hidden ones that aren't even on the panel, with the voices plus FM on the new firmware. You get polyportamento with the wave button on the FM. Wave and... Okay, I'll explain that later. Anyway, you have a lot of combinations. So there's a lot of hidden state that you don't see from the front panel, so you might get confused. So one thing is that pressing down these 3 buttons at the same time and holding them down for about 2 seconds will reset the module. So it resets all the hidden state, and all of these potentiometers get reset to their current panel setting. So that's your escape route. That's if you know what is it doing and why is it doing it. You can just press that and you're back to safe ground.
Back to Kansas.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a good habit to try to learn to always start from that. And now, what did he want to show the fun sync? Strange harmonics trick. So one more thing we can use the sync for. Let's turn on the sync, and if you listen to something like, turn just a bit down, so you can kind of hear the harmonics advancing here. you hear kind of the high-pitched sweep as long as chord stability is at 0, so there's kind of everything is coherent and they sum up in peculiar ways. So what we can do is we can just stop that there. So now if I open up the spread, the phases will drift, and when I turn to 0, they'll stick exactly in the same phase where they were. And now you get these weird kind of computer gamey bleedy sounds.
And this was only with the saw wave.
Yeah. And so that's basically you sum up the 16 waves and you get that. And when you let it drift a little, you always get slightly different sound, so you can lock it into various phases. And if I go a bit higher here, and that's a slightly annoying sound that may be useful somewhere. But if you want to rough it up a little, you can open up the chord stability just a little, just a teeny tiny, and then lock it again. So that gives you kind of a bit of a rougher tone. Let me actually show that again, just because. So you open the spread to move the harmonics a little, then you turn off the sync, and then you wait for the high-pitched chirp to come down, and you often find a sweet spot when the bass starts to...
There.
Yeah.
There.
And then you set everything to 0, no sync, and now you're stuck. Now you're at the same setting, and then when you open the spread, you kind of get this dirtier stuff. So before it was kind of like just a little bit kind of having weird harmonics, not quite in like a nice tune, and you can rough it up a little. And that might be useful somewhere. And it also works if you go polyphonic after that. So the sound is different, but it's still usable. And you can actually then, if you want a bit of life to it, you open the spread just a teeny tiny bit, and now it lives very slowly. So you have this kind of sound, but it changes just a little bit all the time. And then maybe if you do some this, you get this kind of dreamy harp sound. So this, now I'm using the ripples filter and the module, but nothing more.
And is it the filter modulated?
The filter is modulated, so
yeah.
If I turn the filter modulation off, it's...
Yeah.
So it kind of still works similarly, but yeah.
One thing to mention about this triggering the envelope for the filter is coming while we're using the MIDI thing. You could use it like, okay, control all the... well, you can have 16 different voices, but you can have 4 voices via the FM in contrast to the MIDI. So everything that is triggered via MIDI, we have like this utility gate /trigger output, and it can be put into retrig mode here. So could you play us something? So even though it's mono output and it's kind of paraphonic, but the volume envelope is triggered, the sync is triggered, and those are all triggered for each voice.
Yeah, so if I hold a voice here and I play another, you can actually hear the filter envelope also re-trigger whenever I play a new note, even though I'm holding a note. So, as Heikki was pointing out, if we go back to the previous mode, which is no re-trigger, I press down a note, and I press a new note, it just gets added, and the filter envelope doesn't get re-triggered as long as I hold down at least one note. And again, the other mode, it always gets re-triggered.
I'm waiting on someone to pull out like some really funky clavinet stuff with this, with a single filter. Well, as I said, we don't want to take any stance on how people are controlling this and also what people are doing after the output of the module. But as you can see from our cases here, we might prefer like a ripples filter, some a bit more cleanish,
yeah.
crisp style filter after this, and well, I use it with my band only like this combo here with a single envelope and a ripples, so well, twin pixie pad stuff and so on. But that's our favorite combo, and well, our favorite setting might be, so it's like four voices. I might have deleted your settings here.
That's fine.
But yeah, 4 voices by 4 polyphony.
Anyway, you should always reset it first. Let's try to teach that.
Oh yeah. And by the way, this UI is cramped. We know that, and we're trying to keep it simple. So, as much like performance controls, well, they are all are accessible, and most of them are like single button combos, so such as pulse width and pulse width modulation here. But yeah, there's a handy quick start guide, or well, it's a product manual actually, in our website on both the oscillator and the expander product sites. So there's a handy single A4 A4 you can print out and then use like a legend for these controls. Most of them are printed here, but
yeah. But so I suppose the point you were trying to make is that just the basic 4 voices, 4 sawtooths per note, 4 voices polyphony, a little bit of filter. Let's make sure we're on retrig. That's usually for this kind of stuff. Then you can just quickly have something like this, which is kind of, you know, big polysynth stuff. We're really just using an envelope, our pair of modules, and a ripples filter, and nothing else. I mean, yeah, even the reverb is off. So, and this is 4 voices polyphonic.
should we present the polyportamento thing?
Sure,
here?
it's easy. So just hold down. Now I'm not going to purposefully reset because this is almost the same patch. So just hold down voices and turn the FM button. So then we have polyportamento. So it also works from the all of the CV inputs. So even if you're just using the module, you'll save yourself one slew rate generator. But obviously the main use is here if you want to sound, you know, Jupiter 8-ish, OBXA-ish.
And if you use the FM outputs or FM inputs, you can, like, you don't need that function in your sequencer. So I don't know if there's a 4-voice sequencer that does any that kind of stuff. So it would have portamento on all of the voices. Might be. Hopefully there is. But yeah, and well, this is fairly useful for this situation that you have a chord progression that is like 3 voice chords, yep, each chord, and you don't want any unexpected portamento stuff from happening for a voice not used, like an 8-voice synthesizer, to begin from the lowest note and then slowly bringing it up to pitch. But you can set it as a 3-voice thingy, so every chord flows from each other to the next.
So for an example here, let me put some uncomfortably long portamento time. So yeah. So now if I play the notes in the same order, so each note flows to the corresponding note in the new chord. This is really very slow. The portamento time goes up to 20 seconds, I think, if I remember correctly. So.
Because why not?
Yeah, why would we limit you, right? You never know when you need it.
How much is it in the movie theaters, the TAX thing?
I think that's just a couple, maybe 5 seconds or something. Yeah, but anyway, so the point is that if you try to do this with an 8-voice polysynth with polyportamento, the problem is when you're playing 3 or chords, you're gonna have, you know, the first 3 chords are gonna slide somewhere. The next 3 voices you're gonna play are 3 new voices which will slide back from wherever they happen to be, and so on and so on. You're cycling them. So with this, you can kind of actually use the polyportamento. Okay. While we're at it, should we quickly mention that since it's on the same button, we also gave you a an LFO for vibrato. So once again, you save 1 module, and that also works polyphonically. So using function plus the FM amount, you get the vibrato speed and mod wheel on MIDI controls it. So this is a MIDI only feature, so it's only relevant if you're using the expander.
I'm patching something cool here, so
yeah.
Is it time for a question? Anyone? No questions?
Okay.
Everything's clear?
Okay.
Can you send anything besides pitch engage? Can you send like MIDI CCs or any sort of other MIDI messages?
Oh, sorry.
It currently responds to just the basic note. There's a way to set the channel. Then it responds to obviously the mod wheel and standard panic buttons, panic message, you know, all voices off. We've been thinking about some more exotic stuff, but right now nothing else is implemented in the, and obviously pitch bend.
Unless there's like a really good idea, we would like to keep it simple as nothing unexpected would happen, like communicating with the MIDI. Unless there's a good idea. Mm-hmm. We never know. Well, the polyphonic portamento and the CV triggering came how many weeks ago? Like
about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago,
yeah.
The initial idea, and now it's out.
Yeah.
So we're trying to create something cool stuff in this still after it's released. But, well, the main problem is that where do we fit in within the UI?
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff we could do, but, you know, at some point it would be so that, you know, you're going to have to hold 4 buttons, stand on your head, and turn one of the potentiometers with your tongue. So, you know, that's not going to be fun anymore.
What am I missing?
You're on stream mode.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
Polyphonic?
What do you want? Oh, so it's not FM mount on the expander.
Yes, it's full.
Yeah, okay.
Let's reset it. Great! Reset did the trick. Okay, ornaments in crime. Which key are we in?
I have no idea.
Cool. Excuse me?
What is it for more than the ornament in frames?
Quantum main.
What is it again?
I think it's an analog shift register.
Okay.
Yeah, like a 4-channel Turing machine. I think it's set on like Lydian mode, and it's clocked from the random, Erica random here. So some of the voices are in different octaves, and some of the voices are divided with each, or differently within, differently separate from each other. If that's a sentence, I don't know. I'm Finnish. So, well, that's only our oscillator, and it's fed now by these four inputs here, so we can tune it. Yeah, that's where I was coming to. So if it's possible to zoom here, or you can see the LED, but every time without an 1 volt per octave, the main pitch input, we get C here. When a C is fed here, yay.
No, it's when you do that, it would be a C if nothing is fed here.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah, but,
shifted from C. Yeah.
When you know that you've calibrated yourself a C,
Right. Yeah.
then you get it. While the FM amount is full.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find every C note here. So A440, yay. And also the fine tune whenever the LED blinks when you're at the middle. So there's 440. Okay. So this is the Ornaments in Crime feeding some Lydian stuff here. I don't know if it's Lydian.
Me neither.
So, was it function and mode now?
Yes. No. Function and FM amount is what you want to do the.
I want the
CV
gate.
Yeah.
Gating.
Yeah. Function. FM amount while holding function. But you need to switch to gated mode first.
Yes! Let's learn together. Okay, now there's no gating input in the module, but every rapid change here acts as a gate. Cool. And now the envelope works. It's snappy. And this is all the 4 VCA, virtual VCAs, so to say.
And it also triggers the gate trig out, so if you want to use the
Yeah.
filter, you can also
Yeah,
do that.
cool.
Although you,
Let's try that. Is it on retrig? Now it should be. Sounds like it. Some nice sauce from the reverb here. Of course. Everyone uses reverb. Oh, let's try this. Square LFO. I don't know if this works. FMCV. Okay, now whenever we could feed from like nice module like Clang or something, a 4-voice chord here to these 4 CVs. Still, this one master CV control works like a master tuning, so you can transpose the whole deal.
both the FM amount and the 1 volt
Yeah.
per octave on the main module.
So this is kind of a chip tune thing. You know, the fast arpeggio stuff. Let's add more octaves. Octave stacking. Chaotic. Should we try like some random sync thing here?
Sure.
Well, that's a clock. Random pulse.
Yep.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
And because it's open, you spread a little.
So now we get some like accented.
Yeah.
Well, there's one use case you can use it from. I don't know. I think it's up to you to do the interesting stuff. We just make these devices on my dining table. So that's kind of a chiptune patch.
Yeah.
Smooth fade out, and
Yeah.
let's try not to put up a wrong pattern on
Yeah.
this one.
So we're coming close to an hour. So what would be important to say?
Use the reset button
Yep.
whenever you're lost, and we're doing some like basic video manual kind of stuff in our Instagram page, or I'm doing those. So hit us for some ideas what you want to see with it. And well, there's the reset button, and then there's the quick start guide it has many functions hidden in there, so look it up. So it's kind of handy handy to know where's everything, and also ask us.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email or anything. We'll get back to you. But anything else important?
One thing that is it already in the manual or is it yet not? The CV offsets.
CV offset. Yeah, I think it's in the manual. Yeah.
Okay, at some point it wasn't, but okay.
Yeah.
So just this is something that has tripped people up. It's very useful, but also it can be a bit confusing. Let me just plug in. Let's put this here. Say it's on stream and right. Okay, so that we can hear what's happened. Let me just put it to some standard. Okay. What happened now?
You need to.
Yeah, turn that off. True.
You should reset it.
Should reset it. Okay. Filter, of course. And there's still the sync tree. Okay, so that was what sync was doing.
Modular.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so let me now, for an example, let's say that we have everything at 0 here, and I'm just going to open up the core stability. We have some detune here. Now when I stick in a patch core, it's not connected to anything, so it's not doing anything. So obviously the core stability disappears because this becomes an attenuator for the CV. So if I were to patch this in, well, I can patch it in somewhere. Let's take from here. If we have frequency here. Yep. Okay. So now it's modulating the stability. Okay. So, but let's say that there's nothing here. What if I do want some core stability around which I want to modulate? Well, just hold down wave, and it sets an offset for the CV. So this is what happens as long as you have the patch cable connected. So if you take it off, then this just works as usual. Once you connect the patch cable, you get the offset. But I mean, this is something you have to remember. That, you know, if you're using the offset, then you might be confused at some point why the CV isn't doing what you would think it would do, because, you know, the offset is changing things. And the wave plus pot thing works for the core stability and spread. Yeah, and that's it. But those have the CV offset, so that might save you one CV summer. But that can be confusing at times. Of course, as usual, just reset if you're confused. Yeah. That will also reset the CV offset.
Anything that's hidden is supposed to be that, okay, you can find it and then use it. It shouldn't be on by default. So anything shouldn't be in your way, but use the reset button if needed. Is there anything more you'd like to know? Some questions?
How much is it?
How much is it? So what's the daily price?
Okay.
I know that the expander on the both 770.
Yeah,
770.
it's like 490 for the main module, which you can use without the expander, and then it's 290 for the expander, I think.
280 it has to be if the sum is 270.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in case we were mistaken, these people here know the actual.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of policy for that.
Yeah. It's got a lot of features in it.
Yeah.
So we try to pack as much like utility stuff that you don't have to get something to solve like a problem on your way. Like pack it into this module. So so far, for our personal use, it has been quite good.
Yep.
And not to brag about it, but I use it every day.
And one of that's not the only way to use it. One of the motivations we've had, you know, basically these modules together make up a reasonable technically a paraphonic synth, but you can use it for a lot of polysynth stuff, you know, pads, stabs, whatever. As long as you don't really actually need the filters to follow separately, that's your polysynth.
Cool.
And fits in a 4MS board.
When?
And it fits on a 4MS
Yeah.
So it's
super
not
Exactly.
so deep.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think
different.
Yeah, exactly. I think it cannot be more skiff friendly because the height is exactly the height of the potentiometers to the circuit board, and then there's the power connector on the circuit board. So that's
Yeah.
what makes up the whole depth.
Is it the single PCB with the pots and the
Yeah.
power connector
Is the highest
25
component, yeah.
millimeters, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one of our main points, like physically designing this. It's really packed on
Yeah.
the one PCB, but it fits there. Are we done? Or
I guess if people have no more questions, we could go on for 3 more hours, but I
Yeah.
think people need beer and stuff.
yeah. But we'd like to thank Schneidersladen for
Yep.
this. This was amazing. It has been quite a day at this workshop.
Yeah.
It's a horror candy shop. Everything you won't leave here without spending money.
Yeah.
But it's good.
I still haven't bought the Kijimi
You
or Deckard
will.
stream.
You will.
No, I don't have enough money.
Yes. Are we done?
Thank
Okay,
you.
we're done.
Thank you.